Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Masters Podcast. I didn't get it wrong this time. Well, I say that we had to just re-edit it there. This is the second one that we've done with the new name, Marketing Masters, and I still need to get my tongue around it. We used to be called "This is your captain speaking." This is why, right? Today, I'm super excited to have a really cool guest on. I've got Mike Begg on, who's the CEO and co-founder and interim COO of AMZ Advisors. Mike has experience as an e-commerce entrepreneur and created AMZ Advisors as a digital marketing agency focused on the Amazon platform. He made the jump to start his own business and get into e-commerce while he was working in real estate for Sears, and saw Amazon back then when it was going towards oblivion, I guess. And the opportunity really came up to build a business around Amazon, right? He has extensive knowledge and experience in entrepreneurship, retail and retail real estate, e-commerce and Amazon, and is currently working on other business ventures as well. If you check out Mike's LinkedIn, you'll see that he probably has 5 or 6 additional businesses on top. That's a bit of an overstatement. There's probably 2 there that he's working on as well, which is also super interesting, which I want to dig into as well. Just before we came on to this podcast, Mike is originally from Connecticut and is now living in Guadalajara. And I definitely butchered how to say Guadalajara. You said it much nicer than I did just a couple of minutes ago before we were talking, Mike, but welcome.
Thank you. And actually, you pronounced it pretty well. It wasn't that far off. Actually, I think your accent made it sound a little bit better than anything. But Andy, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Sure. The Irish get away with murder when it comes to saying anything because of our accent. So that helps, you know. So, hey, look, tell us a little bit about what you guys do in AMZ Advisors.
Yeah, so essentially what we do is we partner with brands that are looking to scale up their sales on the Amazon platform. We handle Amazon in the US as well as the other global markets. And we manage everything from the SEO strategy to the paid advertising strategy and everything that comes in between.
How many people are you?
We are 65 people right now.
Based everywhere?
Yeah, the majority are based here in Mexico with me, but we also have team members throughout Latin America, the US, and Europe.
Cool. Do you have a strong Latin America focus with you being based out there, or is it everywhere?
It's definitely majority in Latin America, I would say. We've expanded since then as we were growing the business, and myself being here in Mexico, we just saw a good opportunity to hire really talented people here. So we continue to grow here in Mexico, but also in other countries.
Sure, interesting. Okay, so when I was looking through your career background, and it mentioned that you were at Sears Real Estate, right? And you've seen Amazon as a big opportunity. So what made you make the jump then? So what was the triggering thing that said, okay, I'm going to go set up my own business, going to focus on Amazon?
So there was a couple different things I would say. One was the realization that Sears was going down the drain. The company was essentially failing. I joined the company to help spin off a real estate investment trust. We raised $2.5 billion, and then the company continued to burn through $2.5 billion as fast as possible. At that point, it kind of struck me the idea that there's no such thing as a safe job. Your job is only as safe as the people making decisions. And I kind of came to the realization is do I trust myself to make better decisions for myself? Then I trust other people. And that was kind of, the epiphany moment of all right, I need to figure out something for myself. And then I just started looking around what was happening in the retail space and, saw that Amazon doing a lot of interesting things. They came across trying to buy a mall and turn the mall into a distribution center. And I started wondering why would, Amazon's an online platform. Why would they want to buy a mall? And then it just kind of led down the rabbit hole. I figured out you could sell ebooks online. Then you could do retail arbitrage, buying stuff in retail stores and then selling it online, importing products from China and building a private label brand. And finally, it came to the agency where we realized we were really good at the sales and marketing side, myself and my partners, and we were not so great at dealing with manufacturers and actually producing stuff and inventory management. So that's kind of where the company came from and the roots.
So you had, by the sounds of things, you had tried to sell some stuff yourself and failed on some elements around the inventory management and dealing with manufacturers, etc., right?
We actually, we did fail in certain areas. We did really well in the sales area. We had probably 2-3 production runs with a couple brands that were doing really well. We stumbled on the 3rd production run the 4th production run, because we were looking for a manufacturer that could produce a larger volume in a shorter period of time. And we were manufacturing in China. This was our first time doing this. We reached out to a couple of manufacturers, and next thing we knew, there were 10 knockoffs of our product on Amazon. You can't really trust the Chinese when it comes to that, unfortunately. And that's kind of where we killed that brand by accident.
It happens. Yeah. It's really tough. Like, especially because it's so easy nowadays to sell, right? And also to create. That's the thing. It's like anybody can create nowadays and sell. That's the thing. Now, whether or not you can do it well is the other thing. But intellectual property, you're not gonna. So as a new brand, a friend of mine is also he's created a very, very niche product. He's also selling via Amazon, and he's got a manufacturer in China. But in order for him to go and get a patent on what he's developed, it's going to cost him hundreds of thousands to actually get that patent, right? Yeah. So he's not going to do it. And he knows well that as soon as this picks up any head of steam, that immediately it's going to be copied, right? And probably sold for a fraction of what he's selling it for. So it's really, really tough, right? Tough space.
It is. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's how we failed with the first brand. So from there, we just realized what we were good at, which was like sales and marketing. We were like, you know what, let's go down that route. And we started working with some big brands. So that's kind of how we got to this point.
Tell us about some of the brands that you've worked with.
Sure. So we've worked with some pretty household names. We've worked with Burt's Bees, Clorox, Plackers, Rembrandt Whitening, Neff Headwear, a variety of different large multinational companies, especially early on. We've kind of shifted our focus a little bit over the past few years because it is very difficult to work with those companies. There's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of decision makers, and it does slow things down as well as also make it a little bit more difficult to service everybody. But yeah, I mean, that was some of the early experience we had. So we were learning quickly. We went from having our own brands and having a small advertising budget to working with these multi-billion-dollar brands, and we had a massive advertising budget. So we learned quickly how to deploy the advertising, how to get the most out of the marketing. And that helped translate a lot to working with other brands of a smaller scale, but still looking to grow on the platform.
Interesting. So let's say a brand comes to you and says, okay, Mike, I need help. What do you guys say? Like, okay, what are the list of things that you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, first we need to understand what they need help with. That's the obvious one. But once we know that, we're going to look at a few different things that are going on the platform. One, we're going to look at their data. We want to see how their click-through rates are. We want to see how their conversion rates are. We want to see what their advertising results are. All of that's going to give us a better idea of where the problem's actually coming from. From there, depending on what the results are, we may look at optimizing the content on the SEO standpoint. Maybe we're not getting enough organic reach on the platform. That could be a huge part of it. Maybe our click-through rates are too low or our conversion rates are too low. That might tell us that our imagery isn't good enough and we need to change those things. And then as we start putting these pieces in place, we start focusing on what is the overall growth model of this business. Are you a consumable product, or are you a one-off purchase where someone buys the product and they're not coming back to buy it again? That's going to really shift how we structure the advertising and the marketing on the platform. So, if you have a consumable, we're going to be focused on customer acquisition and customer retention and increasing recurring revenue from existing customers and increasing lifetime value. If you have a one-off product, we're going to be focused more on profitability. How do we get the most out of the advertising budget we have? How do we get the highest ROAS? How do we continue to make incremental improvements from that standpoint? As well as through merchandising efforts on the platform. So, it's a whole process we go through. It really is going to be different for each company, but that's really what it starts with: analyzing the data, figuring out whether our content's good enough, and then from there, implementing advertising and marketing plans.
Got it. And I guess you've got your own tool belt full of marketing tools, etc., that you're using for that as well.
For sure. With Amazon, there are a lot of tech companies out there that have Amazon specific technology. We also use some advertising tools to help us with the advertising management. And then finally, we've developed some of our own internal reporting tools to help us get the reports we need and see the data in the ways that we want to see it.
Interesting. Have you tried to do anything and create your own sort of SaaS product with those tools?
We tried to create a SaaS product maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was still kind of probably a little early for it. And we failed pretty miserably, mainly because we didn't have a great partner helping us on the actual development side. But in general, I don't think I would go back to the SaaS side. I just didn't see much success with it personally. So I'm maybe a little jaded from that right now.
Man, SaaS for the win. That's where the money is. No, I'm joking. But it's definitely, I work in SaaS, so I know SaaS well. So it's the only thing is, it's hard to get it started, and it's hard to get it's hard to get it to scale. But once you do manage to scale it, it's like it's pretty unendless when it comes to scalability, right?
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to as a services organization, it's hard to scale services, right? That's one of the things that I find when I also offer a service, right? As a fractional CMO, and I have a team as well, and we struggle with scaling ourselves because you can't scale our time, right? That's the thing. So
it's a big trade-off, yeah. And services is tough. There's many days where I wake up and I say that I absolutely hate services, but it just is part of it. Like no matter what you're doing, you're always going to find something that's a negative or a positive.
That's always the way, man. It's always the way. Always the way. So hey, tell us a little bit about like some of the things that you guys have seen, because you're obviously you're a large. Let's call it. Do you refer to yourselves as an agency at this point, or So a large agency, right? Having worked with how many customers at this point?
We've worked with over 500 brands on the Amazon platform at this point.
Okay. So over 500 brands, right? That gives you enough data to play with, right? In terms of some of the do's and don'ts, perhaps, or some of the car crashes that you've seen when it comes to some of the failures that people are making. Can you give us a bit of an insight in terms of like some of the failures that people are making or brands are making on Amazon?
For sure. I mean, there's definitely failures in both senses of the term, of failures of not taking advantage of the platform, and then failures of maybe being a little too over aggressive with what your marketing strategies are. I would say when it comes to the first side, the biggest failures we see that brands make when it comes to taking advantage of the platform is most of the time they are not playing defensive advertising. They're letting other brands or other other brands or other advertisers come in and take their advertising spots on Amazon. So, if you go in and search for, I don't know, let's say a Yeti mug or a Yeti thermos, or your Yeti, and you're not advertising on Yeti, there's a chance that a disruptor brand can come in, advertise on Yeti, and then steal market share from you, or at least steal recurring customers. I mean, Yeti's not a good example of recurring revenue, but you get the idea. Is like if you're not defending your advertising space, other brands are going to come in and start churning your customers, because it takes a lot of effort to acquire customers, and it's very easy to churn them if you're not playing the basic defensive side. That is one mistake that we see. The other big mistake we see is that brands don't really invest into the platform enough. Part of that's on the advertising side, but many of them are more successful on Shopify or have a big Shopify store already or a big retail presence, and they don't want to disrupt those things, so they don't really consider Amazon as a main revenue driver for them. So they don't really focus on it. But when we look at the broader picture of how Amazon sits within the e-commerce world and in the retail world in general, most product searches that are happening online, at least in the US, are starting on Amazon. So I think it's about 70% now of all searches start on Amazon. So if your product's not there and you're not visible, your brand discoverability goes way down. So that's another big failure that a lot of companies make, is that they don't invest enough to really get that visibility and be found by people that are in market looking for their type of product. Then on the other end of the spectrum, Amazon's an expensive platform. A lot of brands don't understand their numbers. They don't understand what the costs are, what the fees are of selling, and they go way too aggressive. And then Amazon just becomes a revenue hole for them. They just keep throwing advertising dollars after advertising dollars, trying to catch up, and it just keeps draining revenue from the company. So those are the other failures: is not really understanding your numbers, not understanding how the platform kind of sits within the e-commerce and retail space, and then finally just not investing enough into it.
With 70% of product search is happening first on Amazon, that's wild.
Yeah.
And then the other 30%, I guess, is made up by search engine. Right?
Google, yeah. Usually Google Google and Bing, I guess, in the US are the two other biggest sources. But yeah, Amazon has significantly taken that market share over the past 3-4 years. And I think that's a big thing, is like, again, if you're not there, how is anyone going to potentially find you? And another question, if you're not advertising there, there's no chance anyone's going to find you. So it's you really need to invest into the platform if you're a brand or a brand owner.
There's a lot of that bidding on competitors. Like every time I do a search on Amazon for a specific thing, I would say the majority of the time, the first search results are not the thing I'm looking for. It's some other crap. It's like a cheap knockoff, and drives me nuts, man. So like I said,
drives
plenty
of
business,
yeah.
Plenty of business out there for you guys, though. That's the good news, right? That a lot of brands, like our brands, really, like the bigger brands and stuff, have they fully caught on to this? Have they realized that this is the case, or is it?
I would say so. I would say most brands have kind of said, hey, I need to be on Amazon now. I mean, when we look at the revenue growth from the advertising side of Amazon, it's just continued to grow year over year. And I think that's a big indicator that brands have started investing more into it. I mean, when we look at just from an advertising standpoint of these brands, the data that Amazon has is incredibly powerful. They have purchase and consumption data of pretty much every user that uses the platform. The Amazon DSP, or the programmatic platform that Amazon has targeting capabilities based on those interests. So when you think about it, Amazon knows exactly what consumers are buying. They have the ability to target these consumers directly. It becomes a massive value for companies to continue to scale up on Amazon because the amount of targeting is just going to continue to improve on the advertising side. So it's really a win-win. And I think that's why most big brands have invested in it. And the minimums on the DSP side are like $100,000 a month. So they've gone up significantly from a few years ago when it was like $30,000 a month.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It is interesting. Like, we're just been speaking about paid there in terms of getting ahead of the crowd. What about SEO on Amazon? Because I think this is something that people probably take for granted a little bit and don't think enough about it. They're probably jumping into bed with the paid piece, but then being like, okay, you can probably get quite a few quick wins or a lot of gains out of the SEO piece as well, right?
You can. SEO's gotten more difficult over time. And when I started selling, this was back in 2014, 2015, it was almost like you threw your product up and you SEO optimized it and the sales just came in. The actual day that we launched our first product, we sold 25 units and we were like, wow, this is amazing. All right, this is going to keep scaling from here. SEO now is a lot more competitive. The advertising supply has also increased a lot. So when you look at Amazon now, there are just ads everywhere. You have the top of search ads. You have the in-search placements, which are usually the first 3 or 4 placements. You mentioned those before. You also have placements throughout the first page of results, placements on the advertised product pages. It's very, very difficult to get that organic reach now because there's so much pay to play on the platform now. The positive is that it creates a essentially feedback loop. If you are advertising and you are generating a lot of sales, it's sending more relevancy signals to Amazon that your product is relevant for a keyword. So that means you're going to move up in search results. And yes, there is still a good amount of purchases that happen from search results and from organic side. But I would say that, like, if you are not doing the two in combination, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to see the benefits of the SEO side or the organic sales without having an advertising piece in play.
So you need to sell basically in order for the organic piece to work. And the sell then comes mostly from the paid piece.
Exactly. I mean, there's other ways you could drive traffic in theory. I mean, you could drive traffic through affiliates. You could drive traffic through social media. All of that could lead directly to your product detail page and drive those sales. Whether that's going to be a cheaper customer acquisition strategy than actually advertising on Amazon is hard to say, mainly because people shopping on Amazon are more likely to buy than someone coming from social media or from another channel. And we see that where conversion rates are much higher on Amazon than off-platform traffic. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to do something there to really jumpstart the SEO.
Well, the numbers say it as well. Like you said, 70% of all product search is happening on Amazon. So I think it's unlikely to, and as well, anyway, when somebody's on another platform, like let's say a social media platform, they don't typically like to leave the social media platform. Also, the social media platforms don't want people to leave the social media platform. So like the odds are stacked up against you somewhat, right? So
for sure. And we see, I mean, we do some affiliate marketing for brands as well, mainly driving traffic to Amazon and using Amazon's affiliate program to essentially increase revenue for brands. And what we see is that the conversion rates from our affiliate efforts are usually between 1% to 3%, where the average conversion rate on Amazon for people shopping on Amazon is about 8%. So there's a pretty significant difference there between how well people are going to convert from where they're coming from. And even when you compare that 8% to how like D2C websites like Shopify will perform, it's incredibly higher converting on Amazon than it would be on your own website. So there's a lot of benefits to driving that traffic to Amazon. And I think that's really where a lot of brands, again, as a mistake, don't really invest or don't really see the results from because they don't really understand it.
A super interesting data as well, man. I mean, that's it speaks for itself, really, right?
Yeah. It does. And I mean, we see plenty of brands that are between 1% to 3% on their website. Coming over to Amazon, they get 8%. I mean, depending on how good your brand is recognized, you could get even higher. We have some brands that convert close to 20% on Amazon.
Jesus Christ. That's
yeah.
enormous. That's wild.
Yes.
That's wild. Why do you think that is?
A lot of it has to do with customer trust, I think. At least in the US, like US consumers have become so accustomed to Amazon being associated with 2-day delivery, hassle-free customer service, all these types of benefits that come to shopping. And it's just like, all right, yeah, I'm going to buy it no matter what, because I don't like it. I'm going to return it. Nothing's going to happen. It's not going to cost me anything. It's a win-win. And I think that does help drive a lot more of the conversions on the platform for the brands.
Yeah, I even find that myself as a consumer, right? I've got certain brands that I like to buy, and I before would have bought directly off their website, and the experience is clunkier than what I would expect on Amazon. So I just buy over Amazon. Yeah. And then if they're not on Amazon, then I don't buy from them anymore. It's like that's me. Like that's a data on Andy, but like I would imagine I'm not the only one, right?
So, no, I would say a lot of consumers have fallen into that same boat. It's just convenience mainly. If you can't find it on Amazon, you can't get the 2-day shipping or even 1-day shipping in some instances. It's like, why would I care?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. All right, if we're talking to, just before we finish up, if we're talking to smaller businesses or businesses that want to start with a smaller budget, like what are the best ways to start marketing the product?
I mean, the first thing you want to focus on is, like I said in the beginning, is really just optimizing your content the best way possible. I mean, really good content has a massive impact on click-through rates. It has a massive impact on conversion rates. So when you really optimize from those aspects, you're going to start getting the most out of your advertising budget. And even with a small budget, I mean, between $2,000 to $5,000 a month, you can start seeing pretty good results. I mean, we typically try to target between a 3 to 4 ROAS. So if you're advertising, and the other thing we try to target as an agency is about a 2-to-1 ratio of organic to ad sales. So if we think about it from that standpoint, let's say we're advertising 5,000 on a 3 ROAS, we're getting $15,000 in sales, and we're doing 2-to-1, we're getting $30,000 in organic. We're driving $45,000 in total sales off of a $5,000 budget. So that's a pretty good return, and I think that's really the way that most smaller brands need to approach it is, how do I get my listings looking as good as possible? How do I start getting the results from the advertising standpoint? And then how do I slowly start scaling to a point where I have more money to invest back into the platform?
Absolutely. That's it. They're impressive results as well, though. And those ROAS, that's very solid. Like that's, nice results.
It's definitely category specific. I mean, there's some categories that are much more competitive, but overall, that's generally where we see most brands falling into is between 3 to 4.
Perfect. Okay. Mike, if people want to find you or AMZ Advisors, where can I get you?
Yeah, the best place to get in touch with me is either my email, mike@amzadvisors.com. You can also reach out through the AMZ Advisors website or reach me on LinkedIn. Those are the best places to get in touch, and I'm always glad to talk about e-commerce and how we can help scale your brands on the Amazon platform.
Perfect. It's been really interesting speaking today, Mike. Thanks a million.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Cheers. No worries, guys. This has been another episode of Marketing Masters. Tune in again next week for more great content. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.